Hi, I'm Bob Schrupp, physical therapist.
I'm Scott Bossman, physical therapist.
Brad Heineck, physical therapist.
And together, we are the most famous physical therapists on the internet.
In our opinion.
Our opinion, of course. Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the topic today, Bob?
Well, I think we first should probably explain why there's another person here.
Yeah.
You want me to say something?
Yeah, Three Stooges, I don't know.
Well, we thought we'd add Scott here. This adds another layer of knowledge
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
And experience.
and experience, so this will make our videos better. So today, Scott's actually taking the lead. We're going to talk about joint health, right?
Yes, yes. First of all, thank you for allowing me to join such prestigious company
Oh, yeah.
here. I want to talk a little bit about joint health today, and it's often overlooked when we talk about healthiness of tissues. A lot of people don't realize that in addition to needing good muscle flexibility, you need good joint flexibility or joint mobility. Okay?
Especially as you start getting older. I mean, your joints are going to start to stiffen up on you whether you like it or not, and so you got to stay on top of
I
it.
think I've noticed that into my 40s for sure, and now that I'm almost 50, it's definitely you're going to notice.
You're only that? I thought you were a lot older than that. Okay, Scott, sorry to bother you.
No, that's all right.
So
we're talking about joint stiffness, and actually as we get older, there are some common deficiencies we experience with our joint mobility, and we're going to go over those today. First of all, let's talk about the joint though.
What do you got there?
This is a knee actually.
and that is a right knee.
It is a right knee.
Yeah,
Yes,
this
it
would
is.
be just like this right here. It's
Yeah.
orientated just like this.
Well,
See
what's
that?
this sticking out of here? I think people are going to be interested
Oh.
in
I
that.
don't know if that's anatomically correct,
That's-
but
Yeah, that's
That's the tendon is supposed to be attached to the patellar tendon.
we've got it off so you can see the
See the
patella
joint.
with the kneecap.
right. So the bottom line is, with these joints in our body, they're called synovial joints. Most of our joints in our body are synovial joints.
Got the spelling right here, by the way.
If you can
Can
see
you see
it.
that?
Here, give
That's
me
why-
help here.
Oh, Brad
Here.
loves to use his pointer.
You have a laser on that? Oh, you should.
No, this is the,
Old fashioned.
yeah,
Uh,
traditional.
With these synovial joints, what you should know is that there is a capsule surrounding this joint, okay? The capsule is composed of ligaments and connective tissue and surrounds the entire joint. And what is inside that capsule are your bones and your cartilage and your ligaments, but also what we call synovial fluid. And the fluid in the joint is what gives us decreased friction and enables the joint to move without stiffness.
I think that just cracked.
It did
Yeah.
crack, yeah. That'll be $50. Okay. So,
So it's just like the oil on bearings.
right, exactly.
Brad
Yeah,
used to have that
yeah,
background.
like if you're an auto mechanic, the ball joint in the front end of your car, they got those rubber capsules that go around, you pump grease into it. Well, you get the same thing in the knee, it's just a capsule, instead of having grease in there, you've got synovial fluid, and if you've ever worked with synovial fluid, it's very slippery. Anybody that's deer hunted and you process your own deer meat, when you get to the joints.
I was
it's
curious as
incredible.
how you worked with synovial
I was
fluid,
curious
so-
about that as well.
Yeah,
Brad,
that was,
how do you
yeah,
explain
that
that?
was from my hunting
From
experience.
surgeon days or?
So the bottom line is, when you have a healthy joint, when the joint moves through its entire flexibility, entire range, you have a healthy capsule. And a healthy capsule produces a normal amount of synovial fluid, which promotes decreased friction in the joint. But when you start to get a stiff joint, what happens is that capsule and that joint become more stiff and less movable, and then less of this fluid is produced. When you have a decreased amount of production of that fluid, then there's increased friction in the joint and increased stiffness, and that begins a cycle of some breakdown in the joint.
So leading probably to things like arthritis.
Exactly. The first thing that you will feel in a joint that is losing some of that capability to produce synovial fluid is stiffness. Not necessarily pain, but stiffness. So if you're noticing stiffness in your knee or your ankle or your hip, and that's new to you, it's a red flag to you that you should probably have it looked at by your physical therapist.
And it's also a red flag that you could actually start doing some exercises to get some motion,
Right.
correct?
Exactly.
So that's the idea here, is that you're going to start to try to ward off the effects of arthritis and stiffness by starting to do some exercises, and that's what we're gonna show you today.
And this will happen in the knee, the ankle,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, those are the major joints.
Right.
Shoulder as well, I mean.
Exactly.
It's
We
not
actually
just
have
in the knee.
a lot of joints in our neck and back too, which we may talk about, we may not, but in this one, we're just gonna talk about lower extremity joints, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about ankle, knee, and hip,
Okay,
and we're going to talk about what we most commonly lose first as far as our joint mobility.
well, let's start off with that.
So-
Let's go, you wanna start, which one do you wanna start with?
Well, let's start with the hip. How about?
Okay.
So as we get older, we have a little bit of a tendency to lose hip extension. As we get older, we lose height a little bit. We start to slouch forward a little bit. We lose trunk extension. So this is extension, okay? Bending backwards this way.
What's hip extension, can
Hip
you?
extension is loss of motion this direction, okay, which is essential for walking. If we have too much trunk flexion, then we start to have decreased hip extension as well with our walking. And decreased hip extension will lead to stiffness in your hip, and then eventually pain in your hip and potentially some breakdown. So there's some ways that you can maintain your hip extension.
Am I correct in saying, Scott and Brad, that one of the reasons you can
That's
lose,
all right.
one of the reasons you can lose hip extension is because we're a sitting society. You're gonna spend a lot of time sitting. And, you know, so much of your day, your hip is bent this way. What part of the day do you spend putting your hip out this way?
Right.
Besides walking
Right.
or running?
Very
Hardly
little.
ever. So that's why you start to lose it.
Yep, it's
So-
this flexion dominant society that we live in.
All right, where are we going?
So here's what we're gonna do. If you have young, healthy, pain-free knees, you can kneel on a pillow. And we're stretching this right hip here into extension. What you will do is just simply lean forward, causing this hip to extend. So you'll see that my knee moves behind my hip.
This is a great one to do. I do this every
Yeah.
morning.
He's got his shoulders upright, he's not leaned forward.
Yeah,
His
not
hip-
lean forward
yeah.
like this.
What I tell my patients is imagine there's a rope tied around your belt and it's pulling you forward here, and there's a wall holding you here, and you get that extension to keep good, healthy hip joint.
Great stretch for runners.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
absolutely.
And for joint motion, a lot of times the joint responds a little bit better to repetitive repetitions. Repetitive repetitions, that's a little bit monotonous, but what you do then is just go forward as far as you can, hold a few seconds, come back up, and then continue that 10 or 15 times.
You mean as opposed to holding it for a minute or
Right.
some long duration?
Yep.
Mhm.
Trying to progress farther into the range of motion with
Right.
each repetition. So that's a way you can do it kneeling. Now, if you have stiff, painful knees, you can do that standing with the use of a chair. And if you have impaired balance, you might want to hold on to a countertop next to you. But you could put your left foot up on a chair, keep your back straight, lean forward, and again, cause that hip to extend and bend backwards, hold a few seconds, and come back up.
So, or you can do it in a stairwell?
Right, you could
You
put your
hold
foot
onto
up
the
on,
rails,
put your
sure.
foot up on the second step or the third step in your stairway.
Do
hold
that
onto the
again, Scott.
rails.
Hold your arm up once. So keep in mind, sometimes I'll show patients stretches and they're not sure which leg is the one we're going
Oh,
on.
sure.
So make sure it's clear. This is the hip we're working at.
Yes,
The other hip is actually stretching in the flexion range, but this is the side that's getting the stretch. Don't worry about the other leg. We're focusing on this one right now.
that's right.
And of course, you gotta do the opposite for the other leg.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you start walking in circles.
But we don't want that.
That
So
was
that's
a
for hip
PT joke.
extension.
All right?
Next, we're going to move on to knee extension. So, again, this flexion dominant society, we sit a lot. We have a-
Excuse me, Scott.
That's all
I'm gonna
right.
Do that again.
We might have a little bit of a tendency to become less active as we get older. Our knee is then flexed too much, it's bent too much, and we start to lose what we call extension, which is just straightening of your knee to its full capacity. So in order to maintain knee extension, a good stretch to do would be to sit in a chair with your foot on a footstool, and you take your hands and push down on your knee joint. push it to what we call end range. Push for a good 5 seconds or so.
Are you pushing like on your kneecap or where is
I'm
your-
right above my kneecap. If you push down on your kneecap, that's going to be uncomfortable. So right above the kneecap, and you're pushing in a backward direction on that knee, trying to cause the knee to extend or even hyperextend.
And are you gonna bend forward with your trunk or keep it upright?
I'm going to keep my trunk upright.
So otherwise your hamstrings will kind of interfere with this.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have tight hamstrings, they will interfere with this joint stretch. I have very tight hamstrings, so I want to make sure that when I'm doing this stretch, that,
Not bringing it up too high.
right, if the footstool was up here, like if Bob's my footstool, or there, I can't get my knees straight because my hamstrings are so tight.
The hamstrings are the muscle group right from the knee.
Right underneath
to
the knee here.
It's like that.
So that's another moral of the story, is sometimes you can do muscle stretches all day long and it doesn't get to the joint. So we want to put those muscles on slack by putting your foot on a lower surface.
Hey, what about
Pushing down.
your ankles? Should your toes be up or pointed down or wherever?
I don't think you need to worry about that too much, just to keep your ankle relaxed.
Sure.
And you're just pushing down on that knee. So that's a good way to help maintain knee extension. And a stretch to try if you're starting to notice that maybe one knee won't straighten as far as the other. That's
Sure.
a common
Right,
complaint that I
right.
see.
And the way to see that is just put both legs up
Right.
at the same time, and you'll see one that's higher than the other. So that's the one you really want to focus on.
Right, and a lot of people, before they even begin to have knee pain, they'll say, oh, my knee's stiff, it won't straighten out all the
Sure.
way. So that's something you can try on your own.
Okay, why don't we go to the ankle, since we're running a little long on time here.
Okay, so the most common direction of movement loss in the ankle as we get older is what we call dorsiflexion. And what that means is that your toes move toward the ceiling in relation to your ankle
Talking,
or
Scott, I'll
foot.
write it.
Yep,
Okay.
so, what I say, I always say to my patients, toes to your nose, you pull it like that, that's dorsiflexion.
Yep,
Okay,
so your ankle's moving in an upward direction in relation to your lower leg, and a lot of times we'll lose that motion as time goes by. We all know the normal calf stretch, okay? We stand against a wall, keep the back leg straight if I'm stretching the back leg, lean forward, and that stretches your calf muscle,
right here.
okay? But a lot of times the calf muscle is so tight that you won't get to the ankle joint itself. So a way to get to the ankle joint is to simply move that foot forward a little bit, keep your hands on the wall, and bend this back knee as far as you can, causing your ankle to dorsiflex.
Right there.
You may feel a stretch in a couple different places here. You may feel it in your Achilles tendon area, which is normal. You may also feel it in the front of your ankle. If you feel it in the front of that ankle, that's a good indication you may have some joint stiffness in that ankle.
If you step just aside for a second, Scott, here's the word dorsiflexion, in case people want to know.
There you go.
You could do that off a step too, couldn't you?
Exactly, yep.
I don't know if you have the balance to, if, Brad, can you hold on to his hands?
I'll be
Here,
a
I'll-
wall.
Hold on.
There.
Oh, wait.
Oh, wow, okay, this
Oh,
is-
yeah.
This is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay,
all right,
so,
Hold
so-
the step.
so you can bend your knees slightly,
We got quite a show here. We
Yeah,
got
all
Vegas.
right. And then lower your heel.
A little later, the clowns are gonna come out of the car
Right.
too.
So that's a little bit,
If you go
Different way to
on,
do
you
it.
know, and you look at some of our other videos, we do
We
have.
do have that stretch off
Yeah,
a
some
step.
stretches,
So-
yeah.
All right, Brad, what
do
can we
think?
fix?
Well, I don't know, Scott knows this,
Yeah.
but we've been talking about this, we can fix this about anything as well as Scott, except for, tell him.
A broken heart, we can't fix a broken
oh,
heart.
right.
Yeah, but we're working on that,
We're
I'm
working
gonna
on
sign
it.
up for one
Yeah.
of those
So-
women's studies classes and a couple psych
Oh,
classes.
that'll help. Thanks a lot.